If you're watching this video, you are most likely already took a decision to do the Certified GitOps Associate exam. The CGOA is not the tools exam, and there is no terminal, no kubectl, and no YAML to write. It's a 60 multiple choice question exam, and it tests whether you know the GitOps as a set of principles, not just as a cluster configuration. The people who walk in assuming that their production experience will carry them often score around 80%, which sounds fine until you realize that passing score is the 75. And the hard questions are concentrated in the domain they skimmed on. I'll tell you the score at the end of this video, but for now I want to give you what I wish I had before I started. The CGOA tests a specific thing. Can you apply the OpenGitOps specification precisely? Not approximately, but precisely. And the domain breakdown makes this clear. GitOps principles is 30% of the exam, and that's the 18 questions. The content is 4 bullet points from the OpenGitOps website. Memorize the exact wording, and those 18 questions are basically free for you. Most people don't do that, and they paraphrase, but the exam doesn't accept the paraphrases, unfortunately. The tooling is 13%, which means every 7th questions is from this topic, but it's where people put 80% of their efforts because it's the comfortable part, and ArgoCD Flux, the Flux CRDs, the stuff they used to work with. And this knowledge is nearly useless here. The trap is GitOps terminology, which is at 20%. Those questions use the spec vocabulary in the questions team, not just the answer choices. If you don't know what the state store means precisely, that Git is the store, not the cluster, and you misread the question itself. On this slide you can see the curriculum of the exam, you can see that it's the 60 multiple choice questions, you get the 90 minutes and the passing score is 75. And 30% comes down to the 4 sentences, yeah, because those are the 4 principles. And these words are worth saying out loud because they are short. First of all, that's declarative. The system is described declaratively. Second, versioned and immutable, and desired state is stored in a way that enforces immutability and retains complete version history. Third, pulled automatically. Software agents pull the desired state declarations from the source. And last but not least, the continuously reconciled. Software agents continuously observe the actual system state and attempt to apply the desired state. The one that trips people is the pulled automatically, because the instinct is to say that it's automatically applied, but that's not true because of the mechanism that matters. The agent pulls, and CI pipeline doesn't push. That distinction appears in multiple questions and worded just too close enough to catch you if you are not reading fast. There are 9 terms to own before the exam date, and the most important ones are the desired state, the actual state, the state drift, the state store, the reconciliation, and feedback loop. These show up in questions teams. The one I see people get wrong most consistently is the state versus the state store. The Git is the state store and the cluster holds the actual state. And they are different things. Multiple questions hinge on that difference. GitOps patterns is 20%, and the core of it is the pull model versus the push model. The pull model is about the agent that runs inside of the cluster. It watches the Git, it applies the changes from the inside, but doesn't hold any credentials in the CI. And the push model is about the fact that the pipeline runs the kubectl or the Helm apply or whatever commands you can run from the CI. And it looks like a deployment, but it's not the GitOps. The wrong answer on the pattern questions is almost always a description of the CI/CD pipeline that deploys everything correctly. And it has the correct process, but wrong architecture, because the exam is about the GitOps. Related practices at the 16% is mostly reviewed if you have the DevOps background. One thing to nail is that CI builds and tests. It does not deploy anything in a GitOps model. The reconciler deploys. That's the whole point. I came with the production ArgoCD experience and managing 50 Kubernetes clusters over several public cloud providers, and I found some practice tests on the internet, and I took one and I scored 82. The gaps were not in tooling, but they were in the terminology. I knew what the state drift was, but I was sloppy about the exact definition. A couple of patterns questions caught me because I was thinking about the implementation rather about the concept. And what worked for me during the preparation, first of all, I was reading the OpenGitOps glossary at their official website. It took me around 20 minutes. Then I went and did the free course from the Linux Foundation, which is about 4 hours, and it follows the exact domains in order. Then I was doing the practice questions until the wrong answers looked really wrong and not plausible. And what didn't help is starting reviewing the Flux or the ArgoCD documentation in details. I spent like 2 hours, but it didn't help, and the exam doesn't care about the ArgoCD sync flags or things like that. One honest uncertainty here is that related practices domain surprised me more than I would expect. I thought it would be a cruise through the DevOps basics, and mostly it was. But a couple of questions about the precise CI/CD distinction in a GitOps context required an actual thought. I'm not sure if that section has shifted since I set the exam, but if you're watching this in late 2026, cross-reference the current curriculum. Speaking of the study time, I spent probably 8 hours on the weekends, but if I targeted everything from the start correctly, it even could be 5 hours or less. Speaking of the resource, on the resource preparation, as I mentioned, I would recommend you to do the free course on the Linux Foundation website, go through all the official documentation, which can be helpful for you. And also I created the practice test that I was doing myself to fill the gaps. And here is the couple of articles if you wish you can read. And GitOps actually clicked for me when I stopped thinking about it as a deployment tool and started thinking about it as a continuous control loop. The same patterns as the Kubernetes controller. It watches the desired state, compares the actual state, and then reconciles. The difference here is that desired state lives in a Git and not in etcd. One that clicks is that four principles stop being a list to memorize. They are a description of the loop. The declarative is how you express the desired state, versioned and immutable is how you store it, pulled automatically is how the agent gets it. Continuous reconcile is what the agent does with it. Every terminology question, every pattern question, every tooling question is describing some part of the loop. Moving to the results. I scored 98 out of 100 and it was my first attempt. It was one of the exams to my Golden Cube Astronaut status pass. I created the test that you can use for your preparation on the website, and also here is the link on the GitHub repository with all the necessarily technical information like the articles or the documentation that can help you to prepare and ace the exam. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.